Nicky Barnes was the #1 heroin dealer in the country.
He's raking in millions of dollars.
Nicky was the Black Al Capone of Harlem.
But for Nicky Barnes, the rise to the top of a criminal empire was followed by a fall just as steep. In the early 1970s, Nicky Barnes was rising to the top of New York's drug trade.
He used his street knowledge to become a multi-zillionaire. Nicky Barnes was the #1 heroin dealer in the country.
But success came with a price. He himself was a heroin addict. During 2 stints in prison, mobsters Joey Gallo and Matty Madonna had taught Nicky the ways of the mafia. Matty preached that for mafia dons, the key to success was discipline and distance.
Guys like Matty Madonna are telling him, look, you gotta, to be a real player in the heroin industry, you can't use your product. And these guys want to be as far away from their heroin as possible.
Nicky had taken Matty's advice and was no longer using junk. Free of addiction, he was ready to be a serious player in the drug-dealing world.
I started thinking about how am I going to get a group of guys that could insulate me.
Nicky set out to recruit the best and the brightest in the black underworld. This group of men became Nicky Barnes' council, pledging to be loyal to one another.
The council oath was, treat my brother as I treat myself.
Together, the council would build a hierarchy of lieutenants and dealers who'd sell the product on the streets and funnel the profits up the chain of command. Nicky Barnes' heroin seemed to be everywhere. The council had carved up Harlem and parts of Brooklyn into territories. The money rolled in, making Nicky a very rich man. He was earning more than $25 million a year, cash. But now, the newly formed Drug Enforcement Administration had him in its sights. Agents Louis Diaz and Mary Buckley were going undercover with the help of 2 informants who had ties to Nicky's inner circle. March 15, 1977. After a 6-month undercover operation, prosecutors were ready to take Barnes down. Arrest warrants were issued for Nicky and more than a dozen associates. In all, 18 people were arrested along with Nicky, including council members Jazz Hayden and Guy Fisher. Authorities also seized $1 million in heroin and $300,000 in cash. On September 29, 1977, the drug trial of Nicky Barnes and 14 of his associates got underway. For the first time in the nation's history, a judge had decided to seat an anonymous jury by imposing unprecedented restrictions on the jury selection process.
Because of Nicky's reputation for getting to the witnesses, bribing the witnesses, or whacking witnesses, the first anonymous jury in the history of the United States court system, legal system. Wow, that's a big one.
It was a blow to the defense. Lawyers couldn't rely on past strategies for picking a favorable jury. On December 2, 1977, after 9 weeks of testimony, the verdict was in. Nicky Barnes and 10 co-defendants, including council member Jazz Hayden, were found guilty. Everyone except Nicky's protege, Guy Fisher. Barnes was sentenced to life in prison without parole. Now, Fisher was running the organization along with Frank James, Wally Rice, Thomas Foreman, and Ishmael Muhammad. Nicky's appeals had been denied, and there was more devastating news. His protege, Guy Fisher, was having an affair with Nicky's young mistress, Shemeka. It was a serious violation of one of the council's core oaths of loyalty.
Nicky decides to go after Guy Fisher with the only means he has available, which is to throw himself, to the feds and say, I'm gonna help you take these guys down.
I know I can't run this thing from here, but I could wreck the from here. I can't run it from here, but I could wreck it.
Barnes offered to tell the feds about his life as New York's heroin king. Authorities recognized the wealth of information that he might offer up. For the next year, he helped set up undercover drug deals with DEA agents and informants so the government could collect evidence against the council. On March 10, 1983, arrest warrants were issued for Guy Fisher and 4 other council members. When the news broke, some of Barnes' former associates were stunned to learn that the heroin king of Harlem had ratted out his oldest partners in crime. 2 years later, Barnes took the stand to testify against the men who were once his blood brothers. A jury found council members Frank James, Wally Rice, Ishmael Muhammad, and Guy Fisher guilty of running a continuing criminal enterprise. All of them were sentenced to life without parole. Over the next 13 years, Nicky continued to be an ace in the hole for the government. He went on to testify at scores of criminal trials, resulting in the convictions of nearly 50 lower and mid-level dealers from his former organization. In exchange for his cooperation, prosecutors asked a federal judge to reduce Barnes' life sentence. The judge agreed, and in 1998, after serving 21 years in prison, 66-year-old Nicky Barnes was released into the Witness Protection Program. Mr. Untouchable, who once led the most powerful heroin racket in America, now lives somewhere in the shadows of suburbia.